Mike Bohn joined today by Jake Paul, who is less than 3 weeks out from his August 29th boxing match with Tyron Woodley. Jake, how are you feeling right now? What's the confidence level as we near the end of camp?
Confidence level is very high. We've done every single thing right in this camp, and you know, I'm on fire. I'm fighting guys in sparring that are better than Tyron. So I think the fight night's going to be the easiest day of training yet.
Yeah, and you're still so young in your career, so I imagine things are kind of clicking and new stuff is coming in every day. So is there anything you can point to in this camp that you felt as being like your biggest stride or something that has really clicked for you in a certain way?
Well, look, I mean, I haven't really even got to show my ability in the boxing ring yet under the lights. People don't really even know my style. They don't really even know how I fight. They haven't seen my inside game. They haven't seen my body work. So, I have so much of my arsenal that hasn't been displayed yet, and we've only added to that in this camp. And I'm excited to show that off. And like you said, I'm still young, and I'm learning so much every single day, growing exponentially, because I have an amazing team, and because I'm forced to rise to the occasion. I'm forced to become the same level, if not above, of these expert strikers who I'm going up against, such Tyron Woodley being one of them. So I'm forced to rise to that level. And when you have to accomplish something, when you have to get somewhere, it makes you better every single day.
So where did it really start with Tyron in your mind? Because obviously, he was there cornering Ben in Atlanta, and there was like the little moment with your team in the locker room and stuff. I remember asking you after the fight, like what would be next. And I know it was a really emotional night for you and everything, and you weren't really trying to think too far ahead. But in the back of your mind at all, like, did you even know that night there was a possibility this would be the next fight?
I had no idea. I hadn't thought of it like that, and I was kind of just going with the flow and just enjoying the moment. But it really did start with the shit talk in the locker room. And also me taking out Ben Askren, and Tyron just being his coach and wanting his friend to win. And then I'm just flatlining him. And I told him I would do that in the first round. And, when we went back to the drawing boards, Tyron made perfect sense. And the narrative was already built in. And I did want to pound his skull in.
So after doing, the couple of press conferences, the face-offs, all that stuff, what's your impression of Tyron right now? What do you kind of make of the vibes you're getting from him, and how do you just feel about him in general?
I think he's just going through the motions. I don't know if he has really digested how good of a fighter I am. I still think there's like this mental block for him where he's just like, oh, this kid's a YouTuber. Like, how hard could this fight be? And he says he's training hard and he says he's, doing all the right things. But I still think there's, in the back of his head, he's like, oh, I fought Kamaru Usman. I fought Gilbert Burns. This is going to be an easy fight. And I've seen, the little clips of him and Floyd training, and Floyd's telling him the same thing. Like, just go out there and fight. He's not a real fighter. He's never been in there with a real fighter. And so them underestimating me will be the biggest mistake, and he will be exposed for that. But I think he's just going through the motions. I don't see like a fire inside of him, a desire really to do something great that night.
Are you surprised, with all that said, that he took the tattoo bet then? That maybe there's not a full level of confidence, but you kind of threw that out there and he did take it. So with all that kind of thoughts on him, did any of that part surprise you that he ended up agreeing to that?
I think he was sort of forced to, like he was even stuttering on stage saying, should I do it? Should I do it, guys? Like asking the audience if he should do it. And then he wouldn't take the money bet. So he wouldn't take the money bet, but then he's stuttering to take the tattoo bet. He was just unsure of himself. And that in fighting, unfortunately, is the number one mistake. You have to be mentally prepared. He's a great athlete. He's physically strong. He has knockout power. He's done this a bunch of times. But if mentally you aren't ready, if mentally you don't think you're going to win, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, with all the new skills you've added, I guess, in the past few months since the last fight, what do you kind of think this ends up looking like? I mean, is it going to be a longer fight than the last one? Do you think he, is able to drag this into later rounds, or do you see yourself, landing a big one early again?
I'm happy with whatever outcome there is. Part of me wants to go more rounds just to get that experience under my belt, because I haven't gone more than 1.5 rounds. So we will see. However, my original prediction was 3 rounds and knocking him out in 3 rounds. I just think with how sharp I'm coming in, with how well I'm doing in camp, and I know every fighter says this, but like seriously, legitimately, I back up everything I've said so far in every single interview with every single fight. So I've sort of taken it down from 3 rounds to maximum 2.
Okay, there we go. And what do you say in response to the people who, in terms of your matchmaking, saying, you're picking the shorter, lighter guys that you have a bigger, a size advantage on, and, maybe a power advantage and physical frame and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's a fair criticism of this matchup? And then, they say the same when you talk about maybe fighting Conor McGregor or something like that.
No, look, I mean, people are allowed to criticize, and when you're selling millions of pay-per-view and your 4th fight, there's going to be a ton of critics, and I'm coming into this sport in a different way, so people are going to be upset at no matter what I do. If I breathe, they're going to criticize it. So I don't mind it. Tyron and I are both walking around at 200 right now, 200 pounds, so we're both around that same size. But look, I want to fight the bigger guys. I want to fight Kamaru Usman. I want to fight Nate Diaz. There's multiple people on the hit list. I want to fight Tommy Fury. I want to get into these scraps. I'm just doing the fights as quick as we can make them happen, and whoever is ready to sign the dotted line. And so for the critics who are hating on that, just be patient, because it's all coming. I'm knocking these guys out one at a time. They're all getting added to my meme collection, and we'll keep on moving on. But I'm ready to fight whoever, wherever, whenever.
So I want to get into the Showtime relationship a little bit now. When we were in Atlanta, it's obviously the night of. I know you were just on kind of a 1-fight deal with Triller, but you'd said, I look forward to this relationship continuing. And of course, you didn't know the Showtime thing would be around the corner. But I guess just talk about the transition of, ending that relationship with Triller and obviously moving on to Showtime and what that's been like so far.
Yeah, the Triller guys are amazing. Bobby over there is my dear friend. He's an awesome guy. And the decision for Showtime was just a business at the end of the day. And I want to continue to elevate my boxing career, and I think they were the right path to legitimizing myself as a real professional boxer. And, they've done some of the biggest pay-per-views over the past 20, 30 years. And so being around that experience and around that business only benefits me.
So what kind of conversations did you have, I guess, in terms of bringing this fight together? And then I don't know if you've talked about like the long-term plan or anything like that, but is it kind of just what you said there? Be patient. It's just going to be an incremental build, fight over fight.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's like each fight will get bigger and bigger. There'll be more attention. There'll be more people tuning in. The opponents will get harder and harder. And, we'll ride this thing until the wheels fall off. But I'm just having fun trying to, make history and prove to kids that no matter what people say out there about you, you can accomplish it. And no matter what the critics say, if you really work hard and dedicate your life towards something and are committed, then you can accomplish anything. So that's really what I'm doing. And I'm trying to, go down in the history books and be remembered forever and leave an impact on this sport.
So when are the wheels going to fall off? According to Dana White, you're just kind of a fad that's going to fade away soon. I know you were showing that on your Instagram story. Thank you for sharing the MMA Junkie kind of link there too. But what did you make of those comments? It seemed like you found that pretty amusing.
No, I just think it's funny, like if you really are losing relevancy, then no one talks about you. So like the fact that this guy talks about me more than he talks about any other fighter of his, it's pretty funny. Like you would think Jake Paul is the number one fighter in the UFC the way he promotes me. But I think it's smart when he calls me out. Everyone writes about it. All the articles write about it, and then he pushes his narrative of what he wants to market behind it. And he knows I'm going to respond and cook him, and then that just drives more attention. You know, he's an old hater, and I think he sees what I'm doing to his business model. I'm affecting his pockets. I'm talking about fighter pay. This guy is betting $7 million on blackjack, but his fighters are starting GoFundMe pages. So, there's all this bad press coming out about him because of me, and that's messing up his business. And he's going to say whatever he can to try and diminish what I have going on and to try and ruin it. But what he doesn't understand about the internet is him talking about me just only adds fuel to my fire.
Where do you think this kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it a beef between you guys. I don't know if you'd describe it that way, but like, where is this heading? Do you think it's just going to kind of be this way for the rest of your career? You're going to fight some of his former fighters, maybe some of his current fighters if it gets there, and he's just going to be asked about you in interviews and you're going to do your thing, and that's just kind of the way it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I guess I'm just sort of undeniable to him, especially because of knocking out Ben Askren when he bet $1 million or said he was going to bet $1 million on him. And now I'm fighting, one of his top welterweights of all time. So he, at night he's praying to God, like, please, dear Lord, don't let Jake Paul win this fight and knock out one of my top welterweights of all time. But he's a business person at the end of the day. He's very greedy. He's money hungry. He's driven by money. And when I'm doing these massive pay-per-views and legitimizing myself as a fighter, he's gonna want to dip his bread into this business, and I think he'll have to put his ego aside eventually and let me take on Kamaru Usman or whoever it is at the time.
And last thing on Dana, because don't want to make it all about him, but after the fight with Askren, he was very critical of the reported pay-per-view numbers and basically said they were BS. But then when the numbers with Logan and Floyd came out, he's like, well, it's Showtime. It must be legitimate, all that stuff. Do you think when he sees the numbers for this fight with Woodley, it's going to be, again, like you kind of said, undeniable, and there's not going to be that criticism there? Because obviously he has a whole other thing with Triller, but it seems like he at least respects Showtime's ability to promote, and the figures they put out there, he sees them as legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just making excuses and trying to make his business look like the best one. And he sees what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make boxing more popular than MMA because MMA took over boxing for a long period of time, and I'm trying to bring that back and make boxing more popular again. And I love MMA. I've always been an MMA fan. I just think, it's a changing of the guard, and Dana sees that and he wants to illegitimize anything that I have going on.
And you famously told me when we first spoke last year, haters are confused fans. And have you seen a turn in sentiment towards you from some of those potential haters over the last, few months? And I think a lot of people, who maybe feel a certain way about you will hear the stuff you said about fighter pay or a certain thing here and there, and they're kind of, changing sides on how they feel about you. Have you, felt a lot of that from kind of the general feedback you get from whether it's the MMA community, the boxing community, or anyone else?
Yeah, for sure. I think people are starting to see my movement and what I'm really about and what I'm really fighting for, and that I'm taking the sport very seriously, and that I can actually fight, and that I'm just doing this game differently. Uh, so at first, when you're different and you come in, people are like, "What is this? I don't know if I like this." But as time goes on, I think they are seeing I'm just a breath of fresh air to the fight game, and I'm only advocating for everyone and on both sides of the token to grow. I want fighters to grow. I want the sport to be more popular, and that's really all I'm doing. And yes, I'm loud. I'm an asshole sometimes. I make videos and I talk a lot of shit and I piss some people off. But this isn't soccer. This isn't the Olympics. We're not here to shake hands and sing each other's national anthems and be all buddy buddy. This is the hurt business. This is the toughest business in the world, and this is the business of all the misfits. Why do you think every fighter is crazy, has tattoos head to toe, goes out and gets hammered after their fight? Like, bro, we're all fucking crazy. Like, this is the misfit business. So if people are mad, like, get over it.
Fair play. And a couple more things for you. Any idea why Logan isn't fighting Anderson Silva? I think a lot of people are expecting that, but they just announced Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz this morning.
Yeah, I honestly I saw that too. I knew that the Logan versus Anderson fight wasn't happening, but I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, and I didn't know why they came to an agreement. So I don't know who Logan's going to fight. I've been trying to get him. I'm throwing names at him all the time. I just think he's, he fought Floyd Mayweather. He accomplished everything that there is to accomplish in the fight world. So he jokes that he's retired.
Hey, I mean, that was a wild night and wild performance. So I get definitely what you're saying there and everything. And a couple more things. Do you know how much Dustin Poirier auctioned off the Sleepy McGregor chain for yet, or is he still in possession of that?
I don't know. I haven't gotten an update on that. But we're just waiting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know you follow Conor McGregor closely and watch the fight and everything. What have you made of how he's been acting in the fallout of his loss to Dustin Poirier? I think a lot of people have kind of think he's maybe revealed a little different side of him that they don't like too much in the tweets and the comments and stuff.
Yeah, look, he's this guy who was the shit for so long and was the center of attention, and now his career has plummeted. He's falling off. He's 1-3 in 5 years, and it seems as if people don't really care. He's disrespectful, and even like to the point where it's just like too far. Like there's a point in this where it's like, cool, yeah, this is the fight game. Like I said, get over it. Like talk as much shit as you want, but there's a point where it's like, bro, you're losing. You look dumb. I think that's what it is. It's not even that he's being disrespectful. He just looks dumb with the shit he's saying and threatening to kill people. And he, then he's out partying, back to drinking, hitting the clubs in LA. I don't know, man. I think it's over for him, and I don't think his ego can maybe accept that.
Are you more interested in a fight with Nate Diaz now than him? Because I know you mentioned this, when we spoke way earlier in the year, that Nate only has a couple fights left on his contract, and he basically confirmed as much prior to the Leon Edwards fight when I talked to him. There may just be one left. Do you think his intention is going to be to fight that out and try to come for you?
I have no idea if that's his intention. I think that's a huge fight between us, and I'm ready for that anytime, anyone, any place. But yeah, I think a Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul fight, is probably more interesting than a Jake Paul versus drunk Conor McGregor fight right now.
We'll have to see what happens. Of course, Tyron Woodley first. I know, to reference one other thing you had said to me after the fight in Atlanta, you said, I still don't know who I am as a fighter. And you kind of said as much earlier in this interview because no one's really pushed you to that point. Do you think there's at least some moments in there with Tyron where he makes you reveal some things either to yourself or, to the world in that fight? Or do you think it's going to be largely one-way traffic?
Look, like I said, I'm open to get hit. Like I haven't gotten hit in 3 fights. Ben Askren clipped my shoulder. My first pro fight, there was like a nasty headbutt in the first couple of seconds. But I haven't actually been punched. And so, yeah, like maybe Tyron can actually lay a glove on me and we'll start there, I guess. We got a very low barrier to entry with what I have to experience so far in my pro career.
Fair enough. And last thing, and we'll talk more when I see you in Cleveland in a couple of weeks. I'm excited to be there. But what do you think the people are going to say after this fight if you do what you're expecting to do in there? The narratives, you hear what the people say. What are they going to say about Jake Paul after this one?
They're going to say, God damn, that boy can fight.
Good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to it. As I said, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Really appreciate the time, and it was great to catch up with you again.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man.